topic. And this is a picture of me. My name is Chris McGrath. I've spent the last 20 years building internal applications, primarily intranets, for communications teams. I'm the co-founder of Thought Farmer. It powers the intranets of about 200 or so companies around the world. And I coined the term social intranet many years ago, which is kind of standard now in the industry. And I sold out of that about a year and a half ago and founded TangoWork earlier this year, which is all about chatbots. We're in the final stages of development here, getting ready for a launch in the next couple of months. And this webinar is presented in conjunction with Enterprise Strategies. Some of you have worked with Enterprise Strategies before, and they're a consultancy specializing in the digital workplace. They have many Fortune 500 clients whom they've helped with things like rolling out a social intranet or the implementation of an enterprise social network, such as Yammer. And together, TangoWork and Enterprise Strategies now offer chatbot software, chatbot consulting, and chatbot custom development. But now let's get into our main topic here. What is a chatbot? I think many of you already know the answer to that, but we'll start out right with the basics. It's a software program that runs inside your messaging app. So your messaging app would be plain old SMS that we've been using for the last 10 years, or text messaging. Today it's more commonly something like iMessage or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. And now I think we're all using these right now to message colleagues, our friends, our family. Well, a chatbot is when you're, instead of messaging a family member or a friend, you're messaging a computer, right? And the computer responds. When we talk about chatbots, we're primarily referring to the delivery channel within a messaging app. But more broadly, the term also applies to voice. And maybe some of you have an Amazon Echo at home, and you say, hey, Alexa, can you play some jazz, or something like that. Well, that would also be a chatbot too. In this, we're going to primarily focus on chatbots that are delivered through messaging apps. And so because it's within your messaging app, you can also view a chatbot as an app within an app. So why are they hot now? I'm going to state a few obvious things here. One is that virtually everyone has smartphones, and in the developed world, there are 87 mobile broadband subscribers per 100 inhabitants. In a survey of millennials, 86% agreed with the statement, "My smartphone never leaves my side night or day." And that may be the case for you too, whether or not you're a millennial, but everybody has smartphones. The next thing that's happening that are making chatbots so hot is in the last few years, people are spending more time in messaging apps than in social networking apps. So for many years, we've talked about the amazing usage and uptake of services like Twitter, LinkedIn, and more specifically Facebook. But in late 2015, the number of users of the top 4 messaging apps surpassed that of the top 4 social networks. And if you think about your own behavior, maybe you logged onto Facebook this morning, maybe you didn't, but I'm willing to bet that almost all of you have already sent a message to somebody via a messaging app. And it's not just millennials, it's not just, what am I, Gen Xer? But even among over 60s, according to a survey on the Great Divide, or the so-called Great Divide, 85% of over 60-year-olds are using their mobile devices for text messaging. And then the last thing coming together that are making chatbots so hot now are big companies are making huge investments in chatbots. Like Facebook Messenger, it has over 1 billion users. They opened to bots on April 12th. So this is something that's just been made possible really lately, or at least possible on these major bot networks or messaging networks. Microsoft announced its bot framework on March 30th, and that gives developers the tools to easily create bots. Facebook acquired WIT, an artificial intelligence engine, earlier this year. Microsoft introduced its cognitive services, and they're either free or cheap. And in just the last few weeks, Google acquired API.ai. They're an artificial intelligence engine. They announced Allo, a new messaging app that includes a bot within it as a personal assistant. LinkedIn announced a new chatbot. Duolingo integrated a chatbot into their extremely popular language learning app. Twitter announced simple bots. Big companies are making huge investments in that space, and that's another thing that's triggering this. Now, I was at the World Conference for the IABC. Maybe some of you are members of that organization or familiar with it. It's the internal IABC, International Association of Business Communicators. So in June in New Orleans, they had their World Conference. And Shel Holtz, who's well known in these circles, every year he does this presentation that he calls the next big thing. And for 20 years, he's revealed the next big thing for internal communicators, and he had a packed room of people because they always want to hear what he thinks is going to be next. And as he said, in 20 years, he's never been wrong. And this year, he said, chatbots are the next big thing for internal communicators. Now, maybe right here I can just break with a poll. I'm going to bring a poll up here. What channels do you use for employee communications? So have a look at the poll that's on your screen, and let me know, what are you using right now for your communications inside, behind the firewall? Are you using email, intranets? Are you using a mobile app? Are you using paper? Are you using something else? I'll just give you a few more seconds here to make your picks. Well, the votes are still coming in, but so far, 100. Somebody just didn't vote for email. Apparently, email is running at 91% of you are using email for internal communications. 55% are using your intranet. 45% are using some sort of mobile app. Paper is the loser here, just 18% using paper, and 45% of you are using something else. I'd be curious to hear what that something else is. But these statistics here are common, that 91%, here I'll just show you the results there. 91% email, 55% internet, 45% mobile app. So I think we all know why paper is not being used anymore. It's expensive and there's a long lead time. Imagine having to get an urgent internal communications out, like when Hurricane Sandy was threatening your businesses a few years ago. If you're on the East Coast, you can't imagine announcing emergency precautions on paper, right? Now, intranets, the problem with intranets is getting them used, right? And if you are involved with your intranet, you know what a challenge this is to actually get people to log on or even notice news items that are on the home page. In many companies, the intranet is irrelevant to a large portion of staff, and some of them have arduous logon processes which don't help. Now, in other companies, they have very successful intranets, and that can be good. Mobile apps. There was an article in Fortune in September that said that 50% of smartphone users installed how many apps last month? How many do you think? 0. Half of smartphone users did not install anything last month, and that is always the challenge with a mobile app for communications, is getting them to install it in the first place, and if they do install it, getting them to turn on those darn push notifications, because if you can't push something out via the mobile app, then you're dead before you started. And that is a challenge with mobile apps. Email, as you see here, 91% of you using email. The great thing about email is that everybody's logging on to it, you hope, right? The problem is the sheer volume of messages that people have to process each day. And a secondary problem is workers who are frontline and don't sit in front of computers, right? We're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail. The next slide we'll look at here is 10 reasons internal communications teams should use chatbots. And we're not going to talk about all 10 of these. If you're interested, you can read the detailed article. Just search for the headline here, 10 reasons internal comms should use chatbots, and you'll come across my post. It's in a few different places. Or you can go to the tangowork.com website to read all this. But first of all, let's look at reason number 2. Chatbots reach employees who don't have email or computers. Now, this is significant for the disconnected workforce. Some of you may have a certain percentage of employees who are in retail or in manufacturing or perhaps logistics or healthcare. These employees traditionally have been difficult to reach via email, but chatbots can be delivered during plain old SMS. SMS is available to 3.5 billion people worldwide. Nothing touches it in terms of penetration. And chatbots, in their simplest form, work perfectly over this channel. And in fact, they can even work now without internet because, of course, SMS doesn't need internet, right? It just goes over the cellular network. So that's one unique advantage of chatbots. Point number 3 here are that chatbots are both push and pull. So let me explain what that means. Pull is what you do with an intranet or what you do with a website, right? You type in a web address and you request information. Pushing is what you do with email, right? People don't ask to receive an email normally, right? You just decide if you're a communications team, you're going to communicate something out, and you push that message out to them. But chatbots do both. And I could give you an example here of, what I'm going to pull up is CNN. I'm going to skip a few times from the presentation to the chatbot, to working chatbots, which will take just a little bit of time. So bear with me here. We're bringing up Messenger. We're going to look at a lot of different chatbots today. But CNN is a good example of push and pull. So here's my latest update here from CNN, right? And I can page through them. And so what I'm using here is Facebook Messenger, right? And every day, CNN sends me an update. But yet I can also search for something, right? And this would be an example of the pull. It would be news about weather, perhaps. So this would be pull. Does that make sense? So the fact that you can push out the message proactively and also request it is something that's unique about chatbots. Well, let's go back to the presentation here. Chatbot messages are easier to read. Why are they easier to read? Because the medium forces it. Again, let's look back here at the CNN bot. If I look at the ones they sent me this morning, Fidel Castro survived 600 assassination attempts. Okay. If I click Get a Summary, notice what CNN has done here. They've condensed what is likely a 500 to 1,000 word story on their website down to just what I absolutely need to know. He turned 90 August 13th. He survived 600 plots to kill him, something that his younger brother wrote. It's short and digestible. And so that's an advantage for you when you're trying to communicate a message because it forces brevity. It makes it perhaps easier for you to write because you have to focus on what's absolutely most important. But more importantly, is for the user, it's digestible. And I think that's a major advantage of chatbots and why they're going to be the next big thing. Now back to our deck here. Reason number 7, this is perhaps one that you haven't thought about before. Chatbots are fully accessible by users with disabilities. If you've tried to make perhaps your intranet fully accessible, you know what a challenge it is to maintain official compliance according to some of those standards, like yeah, is it the 501c, or am I mixing things? I think it might be 501c for users with disabilities. And it's really hard to get an intranet to be compliant. And you can even just imagine trying to use SharePoint, Office 365 if you've got a visual impairment. But look at a screenshot of TangoWork with large fonts enabled. The reason chatbots work is because it's the underlying operating system and the messaging app that supports it. It's easy to use large fonts on iOS or Android. You just enable them, or you can enable high contrast fonts. And suddenly, you've got something simple that works for screen readers if somebody is blind, or somebody who's motion impaired. They can speak to the chatbot. So that's a huge advantage, the fact that chatbots are fully accessible by users with disabilities. I could give you even like a live demonstration here. If I go back to here's a simple chatbot that I developed using the TangoWork platform. It's just for my wife's soap company, so I use this more as a proving ground. But show me prices. So you can see I didn't need to type anything. You can imagine why a chatbot would work just fine for a user that needs to do everything voice activated. Back to our deck here. So those are a few of the reasons why chatbots are going to be so big. Now let's look at 6 ways that chatbots are being used right now. I'm going to show you an example of each of these. So just briefly, some of the use cases we're seeing is as a personal assistant, as a subject matter expert, for engagement, for purchasing, for research, and information consolidation. So first off, let's look at an example of a personal assistant. So I'm going to bring up, on my phone, I'm going to bring up Allo. Allo. There it is. So Allo is a new messaging app by Google, and one of the things they're really pushing is the personal assistant in it. So I'm going to say, hey, Allo, book me lunch with my wife tomorrow, and send. I love this demo because it's broken, right? And this shows the challenge in these personal assistant bots. So what Google wants to do is be able to respond to anything that I ask and be able to figure it out. But in this case, it didn't make a calendar entry, even though my calendar is integrated with Allo. Instead, it gave me a search result. Let me do something that's a little smarter at. Hey, Allo, show me hotels in Washington, D.C. You think I can do it? We'll see here. Oh, I guess I shouldn't say hey, Allo. Anyway, this is an example of the challenge that's still facing chatbots. Is for it to figure out what you're trying to say and do anything is very difficult. And in this is a lesson, I think, for all of you that are perhaps looking at chatbots as a potential solution for your organization. The lesson is you got to keep your domain really narrow and focused. Because if you try to be a personal assistant, if you try to do anything for anybody, that's best left to Google or Apple, and even they're not getting it right, right? But that's the idea behind a personal assistant. Let's look at one that will hopefully work a little better, and that's a subject matter expert. Now you can imagine this. I see there's several insurance companies on this on the webinar today. So you can perhaps imagine taking a narrow slice of your domain, maybe something around asking for what do you call it? Actuarial information. You could say maybe you want to say what's the average lifespan of people who live in Washington. Or something like that, a subject matter expert. Let me give you an example of VisaBot. I'm going to go back to Facebook Messenger here, and here's VisaBot. So VisaBot, if I just take the main menu here, it helps people get visas for the United States. So it's probably not applicable for any of us here on the call, but if somebody's from another country, right? They might want an O1 for individuals with extraordinary ability, or maybe a B2 extension. So let's look at the O1. Let's check my chances for an O1. O1 is for extraordinary people in the sciences, arts, education, business. Oh yeah, I'm extraordinary there. Please choose your field. Let's go with arts, motion picture. Step 1, please send me a link to your LinkedIn profile and I'll analyze your professional visibility. That's pretty cool. I'm going to say I'm not on LinkedIn, so you don't have to wait. Step 2, you have a lead role in productions or events which have a distinguished reputation. Yes, I do. Have I achieved national or international recognition? I'm going to say yes. Have I performed in a lead, starring, or critical role for organizations that have a distinguished reputation? Yes. I think I'm going to get this O1 visa. You've had a record of major commercially or critically acclaimed successes. Yes. Anyway, I think you get the point in that this is a subject matter expert. Yes, I'm paid a high salary. And it's going to tell me that we think you're going to be able to get an O1 visa. It's processing the results. Oh, 86%. Interesting that it grabbed my picture. I haven't seen that before. And I guess it already knows my name because Facebook Messenger has given it that limited access to my Facebook profile. Go get your O1 visa, so I can say consultation or I'm good. So that's an example of a subject matter expert bot. Now, next let's look at an example of engagement. For that, we'll look at Whole Foods. Let's see if I can find Whole Foods in here. Whole Foods. Whole Foods. Whole Foods Market. Yes. If I just say hi, I wonder what it'll say. Browse recipes. Now let's say show me a recipe with, what should we put in a recipe? Let's say sausage and, I don't know, sausage and cheese. This isn't very interesting. Pasta with cauliflower, sausage, and pecorino herb breadcrumbs. All right, and if I view the recipe, then it takes me to the Whole Foods spot. But why I said that this is about engagement is it's helping me develop a relationship with Whole Foods, right? If I start relying on the Whole Foods recipe bot to find messages, then it's likely that I'm going to be more inclined to purchase my ingredients from Whole Foods or go into one because I appreciate what they've done there. Can you imagine something similar for your organization? Maybe an archive of photos from employee events, and you could type, "Show me a photo of Ben McStiller with clients." And it would bring that up. But that would be perhaps fun, right? Looking at photos of yourself from past events or colleagues, and it's maybe something that doesn't solve a direct business problem, but that could be an interesting aside to teach people how chatbots are working or what they do. The next example we'll look at is purchasing or commerce, and this is fun. Let's look at the Sephora bot. The Sephora virtual artist. Now this is clever. I'm going to upload a picture of, I think it likes my lips closed. Okay, send a terrible picture. Look at those pictures. I close my lips because now it's going to apply some lipstick to me. Here are the colors we found. Okay. Oh, I got to update my selfie. That's what I've got to do. Send me a new selfie to update your photo. All right, let's do this. Now, what the Sephora bot can do is let me try on lipstick. You look great. Here's what Long Last Soft Matte Lipstick Magenta looks like on you. Now, they didn't apply it in a very good way, did they? Let's download the image. Okay, this is what red lipstick looks like when it's misapplied on my upper lip. So I don't know if Sephora is going to get my business. I think it might work better if I don't have the headset on my mouth, because I think it might misalign. But the idea here is that you can actually try on lipsticks and see what they're going to look like before you buy them. And if I decide, hey, I like this idea, I can learn more. Okay, now it's taking me to their website. I can also find a certain lip shade. You can see, though, why chatbots can be interesting for people that are selling things. Now, could you also do that internally for common office supplies? I mean, not match them to your face. But could you order sticky notes or Sharpies or pens via a simple chat app, or perhaps new hardware or software for your computer? We're going to look at the next category here of chatbots, and that's for research. And this is an interesting story. Maybe you've heard of IDEO before. They're a renowned design firm who's based in Palo Alto, and they've done all sorts of incredible design projects over the years, such as designing the interior of the double-decker Airbus for Singapore Airlines, which is an amazing interior. They've designed the cockpits of airplanes. They've designed a Nerf football that has an integrated little fin that lets it stand up on the end so you can kick it for a field goal. They designed Bank of America's Keep the Change program, so just really a concept rather than a physical item. But in this case, they used chatbots to research a fitness bot. So they gave these chat conversations, these phones, to a bunch of women, because it was going to be focused on women, this chatbot, and it became kind of like their exercise personal assistant. And what they did is, you see in this conversation, it says, I went to the gym, taking Pilates tomorrow. The app responds, great power walk. You've already burned 102 calories. Can you burn 120 before the walk's over? The interesting thing is that green response is a real person. And so while they were conducting research on how to run the bot, they used real people to discover what resonated and what did not resonate with the users. So just using messaging apps, they conducted research before actually turning it into a real chatbot where a computer was doing the response. So can you imagine if you wanted to build a bot for fulfilling actual HR back office requests? So perhaps you already have a group of people who's doing that today. I remember I used to work at US Bank, and there were 2 people that did password resets all day long. Now, I don't know if password resets are a candidate for a chat bot or not for security reasons, but certainly the chatbot could ask the questions about who you are, can you verify, what systems do you need, and then they could handle that whole conversation. But you have some sort of simple, repeatable HR back office process that could, in the beginning, be backed by real people, and once they worked out the kinks, gradually turn it over to a bot. And then maybe in the beginning, 90% of the requests are handled by real people and 10% by bots, but over time, it would flip. So maybe 80% of the responses of the requests are addressed by a bot, and just 20% are escalated to a person. Now, the last one we'll look at is information consolidation. And we've already looked at the CNN bot. That would be a great example of information consolidation. And that's what I'm focused on at TangoWork, is really providing a spot for your critical content, especially your news. And so if I go back to my chatbot here and just talk to this sample here, Super Soapworks, if I was starting from scratch, I would say something like, hi, and it greets me and says, hi, this answers simple questions about Super Soapworks, such as what kinds of soap do you have? How do I order? Type help for more commands. Well, I'll type help and see what some of my options are. Okay, those are interesting commands. Notice you can also use ordinary speech, like what is in your papaya soap? And the reason for that is because in most chatbots, it sends the ordinary speech to a natural language processing engine, which extracts the user's intent. But if I say, what type of soap do you sell? It's going to respond with, okay, Sailor soaps, lip products, spa soaps. Okay, so tell me about your spa soaps. 3 flavors of spa soaps: chocolate, rendezvous, spa. What is pricing? Send that. So again, this is a simple chatbot, and you can imagine why this would work just fine over SMS, as well as what we're looking at right now is Facebook Messenger. Incidentally, TangoWork works just fine on Slack, on Skype, on the brand new Microsoft Teams. It works on Telegram, on GroupMe, and that's something that's possible for many bots when they're developed on Microsoft's bot framework, because if you write it once, it's automatically translated, as it were, into the bot technologies of 8 or 9 different messaging apps. So, why are chatbots the next big thing? I think the biggest reason they're the next big thing is because people can actually understand them, understand how to use them. Now, you on this webinar, you're likely a very strong computer user, right? If not a software expert. But you are not like most people. Look at this chart here. This is was reported on by Nielsen Norman Group a couple of weeks ago. They featured the results of a fascinating study of 216,000 people about their computer skills. Now, it put people into the gray category, can't use computers. Look at the USA, that's in the far left. Terrible computer skills, that's the red. Yellow is poor computer skills. So the limit of somebody in level 1 is that they can manage to do reply all to an email. People at level 2, medium, they would be able to find an email from a certain person that was sent to them last year. So simple sorting in an email program. That's level 2 computer skills. Level 3, only 5% of adults in the United States, age 16 to 65, have what they call strong computer skills. And strong computer skills, in this case, was the ability to book a meeting using like the calendar in Microsoft Outlook, and being able to reference a couple of different emails from people who said when they were available. So to do that, you've got to click around a bit, you've got to hold a little bit of information in your head, and then you've got to use the interface. And that's what they're describing as strong computer skills. Now, I know that every single one of you on this call would have no problem with that meeting booking task. But this is what we're putting in front of people in our company. Not to totally diss SharePoint or Office 365. It's just they're an easy target. But the point is, most people cannot use this, right? If only 5% of people can arrange a meeting using Outlook, how in the world do we expect people to navigate that? And that's why I think that chatbots are going to be so huge, because people obviously get this, right? It's simple, it's uncluttered, it's just a conversation going back and forth where I ask questions and it responds, right? And I think that is why probably the biggest reason why chatbots are going to be absolutely gigantic, because they're just simple to use. You're already there within your messaging app, and it makes sense. So where's it all going to go from here? I love this quote from Bill Gates. He says in the book, The Road Ahead, he said, "We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction." And if you think about chatbots, say, doubling in the next year, okay, we can accept that. The maybe use will double. And if they keep on doubling, well, then in 2 years, that's 4 times as many as there are. But the interesting thing is when doubling continues, right? Over 10 years, if you double every year, you're left with 1,024 times the amount that you started with at the beginning. So in 2 years, things don't change very much. In 10, they change more than we can even imagine. And if you think about the last few years, about some of the apps you use, how they all end in chat. Like Dropbox has chat. Google Docs has chat. Your intranet likely has chat. WebEx or GoToMeeting like this has chat. Well, this whole chatbot model flips that on its head, where chat comes first, and then the app is added into the chat. It's going where you already are in your messaging app. So I think chatbots are going to be absolutely ubiquitous. So much so that some people think that the main interface to iOS and Android will no longer be a screen with app icons, but rather be a time-based stream of conversations, many of them with chatbots. So will you be lulled into inaction, or will you be one of those innovative communications professionals or HR professionals or IT professionals that leads this change? So that is the end of the main presentation, and I'd love to stick around and answer your questions. But you can go to Chatbots 101 on my website, tangowork.com, to ask additional questions. We have a LinkedIn group, Chatbots for Internal Communicators, that you can join. And tomorrow, I'm running another webinar, same time, on how to design a chatbot for your organization. It gets a little bit more technical and talks about the first steps that you would need to take, not from a technical perspective, but from a business perspective in planning and rolling out a chatbot. So you're more than welcome to join that. Just go to the tangowork.com website and you'll see a link to sign up. So please go ahead and type your questions in the GoToWebinar question panel. And okay, one question I see here: how long does it take to deploy a chatbot? It depends on your organization. You probably have a good sense for how long it takes any project to happen at your organization. And honestly, I think we all know that there's some organizations that seem to do things really quickly, and others where every project takes a couple of years. I remember at Thought Farmer, we worked with an architecture firm, and I think our architecture firms just view everything as a 3-year project because that's how long it takes to build a building, right? And so for them, it was 3 years. But if you think about how long it took to redesign the last time you redesigned your intranet or a similar project, it would be a little faster than that. So 3 to 6 months, you could deploy a chatbot. And in some organizations, it's going to take longer just because of the hoops you have to jump through internally. Someone asks, well, where can I read more about chatbots? There's maybe you've heard of Medium.com. It has some good magazines on it. But Chatbots magazine is on Medium, and it has some good starter articles on just kind of getting your mind around the space. So that's Chatbots magazine. You could just do a search for that. And also my own, as I've got it on the screen here, Chatbots 101 would be good. Another question, any chatbots that I recommend that you try? You know, all the ones that I showed here are interesting to try. I think the CNN one is maybe kind of the most basic to grasp, right? It sends you something every day in Facebook Messenger. It sends you the latest headlines, so I find that useful. And it'd be a good one to just start playing around with it. Someone asked, could you go back to the slide that shows the computer abilities of different countries? I think folks in our organization overestimate the general populace's abilities. Yeah, you know, I think we all do. I actually found this report striking. So there it is, and this is taken from nngroup.com. So if you go to their blog and read about it, and it really is shocking. Because I think a lot of us in this industry are kind of in a little bubble, right, when we think about what people are able to do on computers, and it's just not what we would think so. All right, we've got another question here. How can this work with different languages? For example, German. Well, most of the major frameworks are prioritizing multilingual support right out of the box. So, for example, in TangoWork, we use the natural language processing engine by Microsoft. It's called LUIS, and it's multilingual. It supports 30-some languages. Specifically with TangoWork, we're focused on English only to start, because frankly, you trim about 25% of your development time by staying monolingual, and the English-speaking market is massive. But yeah, it's just simply a cost savings measure. Every development decision we're making on TangoWork leaves the door open to switching to multilingual in the future. Just things like supporting full character sets and keeping all language out of the app in configuration files. So at TangoWork in particular, we're focused on English, and we've laid all the groundwork to switch in the future. But I think you'll find that with a lot of companies. The English-speaking market is so huge that the first step is the English app. Another question we have here, does the chatbot engine or backend store the content for a chatbot's responses, or is it to be linked to another knowledge system for its responses? Hey, that's a great question. It would depend on the chatbot. So I'm going to talk particularly about TangoWork right now. In the case of TangoWork's content and news, it's all stored in TangoWork, fronted by a REST API. So that means that the content could potentially come from your intranet. There just needs to be an API fronting the intranet that's selecting the content that it wants to make available to TangoWork. Some of the chatbots that are being built from the ground up are going completely serverless. There's no server. They're just using Microsoft functions or Amazon Web Services lambdas, they're called, which are just little hunks of code that do something in response to an event. So if somebody says, say, to your chatbot, they say, search actuarial tables. It sends that to the Lambda that says that, okay, when I see search actuarial tables, I know that I'm supposed to take this particular action with big insurance companies' data that lives over here. It does that, and then it processes it and brings back the results. So it could be both, Kevin. It can own the data within it, or it could totally be fetching it from somewhere else, or it could do what TangoWork's doing, which is something in the middle. It has all data, but it's fronted by an API, so you can you pass things in and out. I think I've got to the bottom of the list of questions here. Does anybody have anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining the webinar today. My email is chris@tangowork.com, and would love to talk further if you'd just like to learn a little bit more about chatbots, and consider signing up for the deep dive tomorrow. And that's at the same time tomorrow. Go to tangowork.com. And otherwise, thanks so much for joining us, and I hope that me and Enterprise Strategies will be able to offer you some chatbot consulting in the near future. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.